Today I'd like to read to you a little meditation by Frederick Buechner, an American theologian whom I admire greatly, and it follows on well from Eve's very interesting reading last week. It's called The Sound of God's Voice. I believe that we know much more about God than we admit we know, but probably less than we think we know. God speaks to us much more often than we choose to realise. His message is often written out for each of us in the humdrum, helter-skelter events of every day. As the sun rises each morning and sets each evening, God speaks to each of us in an intensely personal and unmistakable way. But who knows what else he will say to you or me today, and at what unlikely moment he will say it. Not knowing is what makes every day a holy mystery. I believe that there are some things that God is always saying to each of us. I think that each of us carries around a certain emptiness, a sense that something is missing, a restlessness, a deep feeling that something's not quite right inside our skin. Psychologists call it anxiety. Theologians call it estrangement. But whatever you call it, I doubt if there are many of us who do not recognise that experience, especially living today in such uncertain times. Generation Z has been termed the age of anxiety, the lost generation, the lonely crowd. But part of everyone's inner world is this sense of emptiness and unease, and I believe that that is a word from God. This is the sound of God's voice in a world that is explained in a way. In such a world, I suspect that maybe God speaks to most of us most clearly through his silence, his absence, so that we will want to know him through our missing him. But God also speaks to us about ourselves, what he wants us to do and who he wants us to become. And this is where people hear God speak even when they don't believe in him. A face comes towards us down the street. Do we raise our eyes in greeting, or do we keep them lowered and pass in silence? Somebody says something about somebody else, and what they say is not only cruel, but it's also funny and everybody laughs. Do we laugh, or do we speak the truth? And sometimes when we're alone, thoughts come swarming into our heads like bees, some of them destructive, ugly, self-defeating thoughts. Some of them creative and glad. Which thoughts will we choose to think today? Will we be brave or will we be a coward? Not in some big way, but in some foolish little way, but yet brave. Will we be honest today or a liar? Just some pint-sized honesty, but honest still. Will we be a friend to someone today, or will we be cold as ice? All these absurd little decisions and inner skirmishes make up our days. They seem to add up to very little, and yet they add up to very much. Of course, we always have choice, but into the littleness of our days, God offers us words of significance. Not grand words written in the stars, but little words, like, be brave, be kind, feed my lambs, press on towards the goal. Have you ever wondered if God talks to you?